Hi and welcome back to my crafty hen house. My name is Elaine. Today I brought you outside. I'm gonna walk you through some of the vegetables that I planted. I bought plants and I'm gonna be broadcasting some seeds in my raised bed. Also, I'm going to be moving some of my rain lilies. I have rain lilies that run up and down some of my planters on the back of my house, and they're getting crowded out right now by the rocks. So I'm going to pull them and move them out back by my pole barn and get those planted at the same time. I have some contractors coming, and they're going to be taking out a few of my windows and changing those out to hurricane windows. So I want to get these lilies moved. They've been a staple in our family down here in South Florida for many, many years. My husband's father and mother had gone on many travels in Shreveport, Louisiana, and all across the southern states, and collected these lilies, and I really want to save them and preserve them. And I know that the contractors will trample them, and they need some help getting reestablished in some softer soil. So I'm going to turn you around. I'm going to show you what I have growing in my garden, and then I'll take you out back to my back garden. So this is the raised garden that I purchased from Wayfair. It is a 40 by 80 and it's about 19 inches deep. I filled the entire bottom with branches and debris that I've raked up out of my planter area. And then I went and I got good garden soil, and I amended the soil, and I started planting these vegetables. These are collard greens here, and I have one there that was damaged from being blown over. I have a tomato. Those are beefsteaks. Then I have, this is a husky cherry red, and then these are a couple pepper plants. They're doing really well. I've actually moved them a couple different times, which is okay. Prior to being really heavily established, I wanted to get them in areas that they were going to be happy growing. The collards running into a little bit of a problem because they do like more shade. So we'll see how they work out. I've never grown them before. They say go ahead and plant them a little closer together, and it kind of protects them as a weed barrier, and helps them hold each other up, actually. And then you'll have, of course, your tomato will grow up with a cage around it, and I think it'll look really pretty. In here, I'm going to plant some radishes and maybe some lettuces back here. And then I have, these are the rain lilies. As you can see, we have this really nice planter here. I've chosen to add this gray rock instead of mulch. It's easier to weed and keep the weed control. You see, I have a few weeds here. I can pull those out very easily. But what's happening is with the rain lilies, they are a bulb, as you can see, and they're pushing the rock up. Where the rock used to be at this level, now it's raised up because the lilies are coming up in their bulbs, and the bulbs are rising. So they're right here. They're not getting a good grip in any soil. So you can just see how they're just a mass, and they multiply. So what we're gonna do is just pull these bunches out. I'm going to level out the rocks. This is one of the windows that will be replaced, and these are two of the other windows that'll be replaced as well. So I have lilies on this side. I've already started digging up, and you can see exactly how much to the surface and how dry this soil is for these. They're dying off because they're not getting the dirt that they need. And then these are buckets full. You can see I pulled out a big shovel here. And then I just pulled these out this morning, and it's just a clump, a mass. And you can see the roots. So all these are little bulbs, and they'll turn into beautiful lilies. And I will put a picture up to show you what they look like in full bloom. I'm also going to share with you that I had these 2 fig trees underneath these cages were actually planted down here behind my coconut tree in that area. And there's not a whole lot of sunlight there. And I was afraid that I had lost them. I didn't understand how they grew. They actually drop all of their leaves and go to just a stick. And then I was checking on them and I found a little bit of a green bud. So about a week ago, I decided to move them to the edge of this planter out in front. And they're actually doing really well. I water them maybe once every other day. So they seem to like this area. They're getting good and established, and I have great confidence that they'll do well. Also back in this area, you can see there's 3 holes here. Back here, behind this big majestic palm, they're called. They have a bluish green frond to them. There were 3 elderberry trees that I had started, and they were doing pretty good last year, but they were pretty set back, and I believe it's from the lack of sunlight. And so I also moved them out behind the big pole barn where we're going to plant the lilies. And when I take the lilies back to put those in the ground, I will show you exactly where I planted those. But right now I'm going to take you into this back garden where I've planted onions, broccoli, and some sweet potatoes. And I've had a little bit of issues with my little rodents again. I actually captured 2 of them, but I set these traps out. This one was tripped, but nothing in it. And then I have another one over there. But they were eating my sweet potatoes down, and I didn't know exactly what was getting them until I set the traps. And of course, then I found out it was rats because we have a water canal back here. It's like a drainage ditch, and they come up from there, and they're just so invasive. So I placed all my onions. I amended the soil and added new garden soil that was lighter. If you remember last season, I had planted onions and they didn't do very well. I think because that was an overabundance of peat moss and the soil got very, very dense. I planted broccoli. Never planted broccoli before. Over here, there's more onions, more broccoli. I've always had this Italian oregano. I bought spearmint, and my basil, it's not doing too well. And that started almost immediately after I left the store. So I'm gonna let it stay there and see if it comes back. My tea roses, they're doing really good now that I'm paying attention to them. I do have to get in here and trim, take these dead heads off. And then you can see where I bought these sweet potato starts. There's 3, but I actually had 9. And they went through and clipped them off. And I also have onions throughout here. So I just need to know what it is that I need to control as far as the varmints go. Currently, that's what I have in this back garden. I went ahead and opted to get plants and get those in the ground. I don't have to pay as much of attention to the broccoli or the onions or the sweet potatoes. They're about a 90-day crop and they can be on their own. They're not as delicate as, say, the collards are, or the tomatoes. I have to watch for pests. So I really like the idea of having the raised bed planter up there by the house. I can really keep an eye on them. So what I'm going to do now is I will go back up to the house. We'll dig up the rest of the rain lilies. Then I'll take them out back by the pole barn and get those transplanted along the pole barn. It's really sandy soil back there, and there's not much grass growing against that one side of the pole barn. So I feel okay planting them right out, and I won't bother them with the tractor either. And hopefully this is going to give them a good start so that when I do bring them back up here after the windows are done, I can make a bit of a gully with just soil, move the rocks back and put a border and let them have their own space to really thrive, and thin them out as well. Okay, well, I'm gonna get busy and I'll see you in a moment. This is my haul of rain lilies. Look at those baskets just full of bulbs. You can see why I don't want to sacrifice them or lose them. There are abundance of them and they multiply like crazy when the season comes around, as well as if they have good soil. And this is the area back here along this area that I'm gonna go ahead and plant all those lilies. It's sandy soil, it's good drainage. As you can see, we've had sod we put up against there that did not grow. It doesn't get the adequate sun, but these lilies, they'll really like it back here. And then in these little covers, these are the elderberries that I had mentioned. And you can see where I've got some new growth. On this one, we had 3 of them. And this one right here, we've got some growth on the tip of that one, as well as this one. And I'm not sure. Oh, look. Yep, we have some good growth on this one as well. I mean, I'll take whatever it is I can to grow these down here. I do like to make the elderberry syrup, and these will be a nice addition to the rest of all of my berry row. I have all of my blackberries and blueberries. You can see my orchids are just doing beautifully up in the trees. I put them under the canopy of this oak tree. This is my husband's favorite place to sit and admire his beautiful yard when he cut everything and had it so beautifully manicured. I have some beautiful white orchids, and we have some purple ones, or I guess you could call them almost like a fuchsia, and yellow. These are really, really pretty. But then I have my blackberries that I'm growing, and they're starting to do really good. They're getting some of their growth and their flowers. Even a couple starts of blackberries. And this is my Queen's wreath. She's absolutely beautiful. My neighbor bought that for us, and it's so pretty. And then my blueberries, I've been struggling with them just mainly because of the soil, but I did fertilize and we have a little bit of new growth. So I'm gonna do some research. And this is a hydrangea. It's a southern hydrangea that my mom had got man sent down. She knows how much I love hydrangeas, and we can't really grow them too well here in Florida. Another little raggedy blueberry. And then this blueberry, it's got some growth on it. And I'm just gonna give these a lot of TLC and continue to work them. And of course, this is my mulberry tree. And it's in its in-between stages. And it has a few little mulberries on it. You can see right there. And so this is the location that I'm going to put my new hives when I get them. There, I put the cinder blocks with ground rods on either side of them to hold the cinder blocks straight. This area is not near the foliage. It's out in the open. It's going to get direct sunlight. I'm going to get 2 6-foot square posts to run between the openings of the cinder blocks, and then I will put my hives on top of them. I want to get 2 hives, so if I lose one again, then I have a backup hive. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. My other hive, as you remember, was directly behind the swing, and I got inundated with moths and hive beetles, and my bees swarmed. And that's where they were. I think they were too close to the thick foliage, and it allowed the bugs to really take over. They really like to have that nice sunlight on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'll share with you this other little orchid. That beautiful. And I have a purple one and another yellow. They're just doing amazing underneath this canopy. And when I get these planters, what I do is I take a piece of newspaper and I lay a piece of newspaper in the bottom, and I put my orchid in there, and then I put the orchid mixture around them just so that it holds in all of the orchid mixture until they can establish their root system and hold it in themselves. It just seems to help, and it disintegrates, so I haven't had any issues with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get busy here and get these lilies planted along this area. Eventually I'll put a border so that I can edge nicely in this area, and we'll get them planted and get them established until the windows are done, and then I can put them back up near my house by my other planter. Well, very successful transplant of these lilies. Was able to do this whole side, and I actually want to leave the grass here. It's my intention that after the windows get done at the house, I can take these lilies back and put them up by the house. So I would like the grass to grow up to the concrete. So I didn't really want to dig up this area, and I didn't have enough to really fill in and disturb that area right now. I could possibly get some sod and plant sod. Like I said, all of these rain lilies, we call them, they're actually like a day lily. They all went in, and they're very hardy. As you can see, there's a little bulb at the end, and you can just stick them right down in the dirt and they will grow like wildfire. And I actually planted a little batch right here underneath the oak tree next to the gardenia. The gardenia is going to move, needs more sun, and I'm actually going to plant that over here next to the barn. I had a extra blackberry that had sprouted in a bucket, if you recall, and I planted it in the dirt to give it some more room, and I just brought it over today and planted it next to the other blackberries. I planted 2 more little batches of the rain lilies. And then back here where the bees were originally, I dug a few trenches and put some bulbs in there and stuck those up, as well as through the other side of the gate. These are such hardy little bulbs. They will root right away, and these I intend to leave out here. I have a little trench that goes through here and up to that tree. So this blank space right here will have the lilies come up. They get about 12 to 15 inches in height. Also wanted to show you a transplant I just did. This is one of the yesterday, day, and tomorrow. I'll post a picture up. They grow very easily, and as you can see, they've got all new growth. This was in a pot and it was getting root bound. The leaves were turning really bad. I dug a nice hole, put this out here, and that's also going to fill in this little blank area right here. I'm really happy with how all that turned out, planting those daylilies there, or rain lilies, and get them established so that I don't have to worry about the contractors trampling them and ruining them. I do have other patches of rain lilies up towards the front of the house, but I do like to have them along the back of the house in my planters. So I'm going to end this video today right here, and I want to encourage you to get out, and it's springtime. Get your bulbs dug up, separate them, and give them some more space to grow. If you have to start them in buckets until you can really get out into the yard and plant them, get on that. It's a lot easier to establish them when they've been given the opportunity before summer really sets in. So until next time, I want to thank you again for joining me. Have a wonderful day and happy planting.